There's no single Star Wars that I hate, but The Last Jedi is definitely my least favorite for many multiple reasons. So I'm not the biggest fan of the sequels to begin with, and this is definitely the worst of the three. So I didn't like the addition of Snoke. I mean, I think it's great that there's going to be more villains added in, but I didn't think he was that great. There's nothing that great about him. He didn't really do much throughout the movie. Especially didn't like Admiral Holdo, the chick with the purple hair. She was just kind of an unlikable character. She was thrown in without much of an explanation. I especially didn't care for Rose. I didn't care for her character. No, I did like the beginning with the bomber jets and bomber things. I don't even know what you want to call them, but I didn't like Rose's story or her acting. I didn't like Luke. I didn't like him just blowing off the Jedi and him needing to come back. He just blew that off. His acting wasn't the greatest in that either. I didn't like the space gambling or the casino scenes. Those kind of took away from the other good parts of the movies. The other good parts of this movie, like the action sequences and duels. There were a couple reasons why I didn't like The Phantom Menace, and one of them was some plot holes, some unexplained things, but all in all, I do say that this is a pretty good movie, especially for origin story. It's pretty good in action, but it's a little bit boring with some of the political stuff, unless you're into that type of thing. I would have preferred if there were a couple more explanations or more things that just got explained, but one thing most people hate about this movie is Jar Jar, which honestly, I don't think there's anything that bad with him. He's annoying, yes, and yes, he's part of the movie. Um, they didn't necessarily have to add him, but I think Jar Jar just made the movie that much better. Not to mention Darth Maul is pretty awesome, and so is the last sequence with Qui-Gon and um, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. So I didn't think the Rise of Skywalker was that bad of a movie, but I think there could have been some better things about it. Um, I think that Palpatine returning was a good thing, but also kind of a weird thing. It was good to see him again, but it was just kind of weird, just like how they're like, somehow Palpatine returned. So I thought that was just kind of lame, but one thing I hated about The Rise of Skywalker was Rey at the end says that she's Rey Skywalker when everyone knows she's not Rey Skywalker. She doesn't even deserve that name. She's definitely not the best Jedi. She's not a Skywalker, and if I were her, I would be proud that I'm a Palpatine, because even though I am a Palpatine, I put an end to the dark side. And if she really is as powerful as she wants to be, then she should have just said that her name is Palpatine, because that's who she is and that's who she should be proud of. And I didn't like the end when Kylo Ren and Rey kissed. That kiss didn't really mean anything. It was kind of just I didn't like the loss of Kylo Ren. I didn't like the kiss between them. Kind of just left me with a weird taste in my mouth. But yeah, it was a pretty good movie, and there were some things that I would like to see. I would that need to be improved. So, Attack of the Clones is definitely not as bad as the other movies that I had listed on here before it. So, I think it is a great movie, and it would be so much better if the acting for Anakin wasn't so horrible. I think Hayden Christensen, no offense to him, did an awful job acting as Anakin. He just seems like a whiny kid. Uh, it's not how Anakin should be. I mean, obviously he's a teenager, but I just wish that Hayden Christensen would have done a better performing job. So I definitely think there was a couple of really good things about this movie, especially the most of the entire story was really good, especially for an origin story, for more of the background information. It showed us a little darker side of Anakin and set us up for the Revenge of the Sith and for A New Hope, and just demonstrated really well about Anakin and everyone before the older movies. And I really like the ending battle with all the Jedi's and on Geonosis, where Padme, Obi-Wan, and Anakin are about to be assassinated. But it obviously doesn't end up working. I just think that um, the part of that is really awesome. I love all the clones, and I think that Jango Fett is also really awesome. And I think that entire aspect of the movie's great. There just needs to be some better stuff about it, especially the acting, and the CGI needs to be improved a bit. So obviously I can't give this movie too much hate, but I do have a lot to say about it. So I'm not a fan of, obviously this is the first Star Wars movie to be ever created and they added a little bit into it. But my main thing is Luke Skywalker and the way he's portrayed. So like his whininess as well. I didn't like the lightsaber fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. I thought that was really lame. Um, but it's the best they could do, and I don't have much to say about this movie. That's why it's kind of like in the middle. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely not the greatest, and there could be a lot of things that were made differently if it was more modern. So this might be one of the more controversial Star Wars movies. It seems like either you really like it or you're not a fan of it. And for me, I was a fan of it. But was this movie 100% necessary? No, but did it do a really good job? Was it a good movie? Yeah. And I will watch it over and over again. I think it's a good movie. It's definitely worth watching. And yes, I like the origin story of Han Solo. It has a good story to it. I like seeing Chewie back in it. And no, it's not 100% necessary, but it's definitely a great movie. There's not much bad things to say about it. I haven't watched it very recently, but I do remember liking it pretty much because there's not that much bad about it, and it's definitely worth watching. So, The Force Awakens is a pretty decent movie. There are a few things to say about it though. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the sequels anyway, but this one definitely is the best of the three. It has the return of some of our OG characters like Han Solo and Chewie, and it's good to see them again, but there's just still some flaws, and it's better than the other three. Not the greatest Star Wars movie, but it gives us a whole new story that we've never seen before, so it's kind of something new and different that is pretty likable. So, yeah. Return of the Jedi is a pretty great movie, and it's definitely one of the more classic Star Wars. It's remembered a lot compared to some of the others, and it seems like a lot of people like it. I don't really care for the beginning of the movie, except for Jabba, because Jabba is one of the best characters in Star Wars, hands down, because there's just something about him that's pretty awesome, even though he's a fat slug that really does nothing. He's just pretty awesome, and I definitely think that this is one of the better Star Wars movies, and I don't really like um the end where the Ewoks come in and they're just really annoying. And I understand they're part of the movie and they help like defeat the Empire, but the Ewoks are just kind of stupid in my opinion. I'm not a fan of them, and they're just annoying. They could have been done without. I could do without them, but other than that, it's a pretty great movie. So, Rogue One is different from all the other Star Wars movies in the sense that no one in the movie, the main characters, no one survives in the end. So, it's kind of like it's just different, and that's why I like it. So, even though everyone dies, they're characters that you still like and can relate to and understand why they want to win. And so, definitely, the best character in this movie is K2SO, who's definitely the best droid that I've seen so far in any Star Wars movie, better than C3PO and R2D2. And I would definitely say that this movie is one of the better ones, even though I could see why people don't like it because they're not like the main normal characters. But it's still a likable movie, and if you're into Star Wars, it's just a great addition to the rest of the story. So I think that whenever people think of Star Wars, they instantly think of The Empire Strikes Back because they think of the walkers, the AT-AT on the planet Hoth in that battle, and which is all cool, especially for the time in the 1980s. And I think that this episode is definitely the one that people always remember just because it's a good episode and it's definitely one of the more classic and memorable ones. So I think everything about this movie is pretty great, and there's not really a lot of bad things to say about it, except when Luke finds Yoda on Dagobah, and I know that's one of the more iconic parts of Star Wars, and especially this episode, but I just find that part kind of weird, kind of lame, and obviously it's important, but maybe it could have been done differently. I just think Yoda's goofy back then, and obviously he hasn't interacted with many people in Dagobah, but it's just kind of a goofy place and he acts weird. But that's the only thing I don't like about this movie. So this movie for me, I was going through all of these Star Wars movies and it's obviously hard to rank, but I realized that this movie, Revenge of the Sith, is my favorite because it hits a lot of the spots that I look for and I like in movies. So it's kind of dark, and I'm not usually a fan of dark movies, but it starts off where Anakin is just a hero still, and he's good, and he has good intentions, but he ends up just turning. And it seems like by the end of this episode, no one has won. There's not a definite winner. And that's why it's different from all the other movies, because all the other movies are like, yay, we did it, we won, we beat this or that, we beat the Empire. But this one, it's like the beginning of the Empire, just the point where it all just happens. And that's why I really like this movie. And obviously, Hayden Christensen's acting it's not that great in this one. It's not as bad as Attack of the Clones, but it could still be improved immensely. And there are some things about this movie that I don't like just the over dramatic, um, Palpatine, Insidious, whatever you want to call it. But other than that, this movie is definitely my favorite Star Wars movie, and I think it always will be, just because it hits every spot and it's just one of the greats. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Please consider subscribing to support me and my channel to help it grow. If you like this content, then come and watch more and like the video. Thank you. See ya.